much, Walter. As I said before, nobody can live up to Walter's introduction, so I'm sure to disappoint after all of this. I want to thank, first of all, my friends in science, Bob Arking and our people who are here. Bob, of course, is the person, this is from my students, who works with fruit flies. And whose fruit flies are not the misbehaved ones that we encountered in Old Maine. Chris Krepke is a musician, apart from all his scientific credentials, and he's one of the rising stars of the med school, getting more grants than anybody else in the entire med school. He's also a musician, and he was kind enough to compose to my poems. So our collaboration was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank my friends from classics who are here, and my friends from the social sciences, and Ellen Barton, the chair of our department, is just walking in, and also my students. And I'm very delighted to see that there are a couple of people I don't know in the room, so I'm very happy about it. Michelle, the union. Okay. I have to say that the Humanities Center has been very kind to me. Walter talks about my friendship for the Humanities Center. I've benefited greatly. I had a grant that allowed me to start going on this research that I'm doing for a poetry collection. And you might think, why are you doing research for a poetry collection? Well, it's because I'm going to explain to you what I'm trying to do, and it's a little complicated, and it does require research. And I think that one of the reasons that I have friends in the sciences and I've collaborated with people in the sciences is because I myself have always had a bent that way. I did not pursue my scientific career because in 1966, when I began at Wayne State University attempting to get a biology degree, I had graduate assistants in the labs who would throw rats at women to make them scream. And I was having ever such a good time in my literature classes where people were not misbehaving that way that I decided to go for the humanities instead. I don't know whether this still pertains. Probably in some cases it does, particularly in overly, testosterone departments. But anyway, so in this collection that I'm doing, I'm going to try to celebrate life that often passes unnoticed, such as intertidal creatures, migrating and common birds, amphibians, reptiles, non-charismatic mammals, and other species. And in writing poems about these, as you'll hear, I'm advocating for their beauty, habits, habitat, and right to existence, and elegizing their decreasing presence on this human-crowded planet. The field of animal geography analyzes animals, as they say, in their local material spaces, according to the people who do work on this. I intend not an analysis, but a testimony of non-human life in locations that are both literary, which will be my poems, and real, the habitats and patterns of non-human life. And so I'm also going to look at human migration from Africa and other parts of the world, as well as the migration of peoples across the Bering Straits to the land masses of the Americas. Comparisons and contrasts with present migrations will inevitably inspire me to advocate for a shared planet and against the imaginary geographical lines that divide us. And here I get to what my research consists of. And that has to do not only with patterns of migration of animals and the ones that are sedentary, but also with maps predating the Mercadorian Revolution. My husband, who was brought up in the United States, tells me that it's pronounced Mercator, but since he was, after all, Portuguese, I will pronounce it Mercator, as I'm told it is pronounced. So, he was the one who invented the flat mapping, and in a sense wiped away the bio in cartography, provided humans with accurate measurements for purposes of travel, trade, and especially conquest. Before the discoveries of longitude and the advances in navigation, map makers included in their cartographies pictures depicting indigenous people in native dress and local species of animals, many of them imaginary, both the people and the animals, on land and in the air and on seas and on the margins of the map. The phrase There be dragon is often used to mock the wild surmises of these early cartographers. These maps show that travelers were mindful of the living geographies, what we now call biogeographies of the region they came upon. Early cartographers knew the globe was not an empty space crossed by man-made lines of latitudes, longitudes, and the equator, but a world teeming with creatures. Alas, many of these have vanished, as have the fantasies about them. Most struggle for survival against odds we humans have put in their paths. And I will try, via these poems, to create my own biomaps in poems that trace migratory patterns and stationary habitats of fish, birds, mammals, reptilians, and so on. These paths will make up a motley, quilt-like vision of the globe. So, now I'm going to read the poems. And I'm starting with two poems that are about Mercator, which I think are probably not terribly accessible unless you have my introduction. But nonetheless, I hope that they will bring some of you to remember some little exercises that you used to do when you went to elementary school. Okay. The first one is called Map Collection. Mercator's first name was Latinized to Gerardus. Gerardus, he called maps bound atlas, struck with cleverness and classic learning, forgetting defeated Titan bracing against the pregnant weight, this rounded sack, its skin of gravity holding in the generative seas, masses of stone, and ground down rock. You straighten longitudes, imaginary ribs defining this, our breasts, enlarged to monster-shaped Greenland, Antarctica riding on widened latitudes. The point that we should get in line from here to there, forgetting the tilt, the sway, this bucking errant planet. The second one is called Mercator Makes Maps. Like the good things we take for ourselves, they traveled with us from blessed isles, where all you do is stand and food falls where you're taking, unless a dragon comes from the underbush for her right meal, you standing. We now toss them casually into the lunchbox, glowing in a bowl. And every year, in one or another class of small prisoners, teachers assign the orange to stand in for our lips. Children dutifully peel with small clumsy fingers attached to cardboard sheets these vivid, fragrant rinds, still trying to resist the flattening. You, Gerardus Mercator, in fogs of land-to-land, did you hold oranges? Do we know what prompted your geometric genius? Was it a grape you squashed under as you walked pondering the sphere? An apple blushing rind after you'd done skinning with a sharp knife, letting it coil upon the damask tablecloth? Did you, like Archimedes, unmindful of all else, run back with trembling fingers, unclothed, nailed to the wall, the shimmering dress of this, our little globe, now emptied of loving roundness, left naked to probing, anatomizing, yet to come? Okay, so those are the Mercator poems. And the others are the ones that I'm reading now. My meditations on sort of the give and take of whatever natural powers govern our lives, where you think you've won a triumph and then you realize it's much too short-lived and illusory a triumph. So I have two paired poems. One is called Each Life. And this is 2 years in a row. Each Life. On October 9, 5769, Atonement Day, the thrush stood in the middle of Lakeland, the street that takes me where I face St. Clair to cast once more my bread upon its waters. Stood there, unmoving, ready to be hit by passing cars. Let me scoop its olive body, wait no more than